Sarah Grimke was born November 29, 1792, and grew up in a family of 14 children, her herself being the sixth. She was raised in South Carolina by her mother, Mary Grimke, and father, John Grimke, a distinguished jurist and cotton plantation owner. Her family first lived on a rice plantation using paid labor, but once the famous cotton gin was created, her father made the decision to become a cotton plantation owner and use slave labor due to the increased profit benefits. Sarah never felt comfortable with having the slaves work under such cruel conditions. She believed that it was unfair and against the true beliefs of Christianity, but both her parents told her not to involve herself with them, so she found there was little she could do at that time. Sarah's first sign of action against slavery was when she secretly began teaching her own personal slave how to read and write, but after a few months, her mother became suspicious and caught her. Her parents highly disapproved of the slaves getting any education, and so almost had the young slave whipped and Sarah punished. Angelina Emily Grimke was Sarah's younger sister and leading partner in anti-slavery. Sarah basically raised Angelina throughout her whole childhood, which is why she was such an influence. Even though Sarah began protesting against slavery first, Angelina is actually the more well-known of the Grimke sisters due to her more radical activism. Angelina gave speeches and published articles alongside Sarah for many years, even after she married abolitionist Theodore Weld, had kids, and moved to a farm where Sarah also followed.
The year of 1819 was the beginning of Sarah's activism. That year, she traveled alone with her father to Philadelphia for his medical needs. While there, she learned about the Quakers and felt an attraction to their faith. Unfortunately, during this visit, her father passed away, but before she returned to her family, she stayed with a Quaker family, who provided the final pieces in inspiring her. When she returned to her family, she tried to encourage them to also go against slavery, and when they refused, in protest, she moved out and went back to Philadelphia to join the Quakers. A few months later, Angelina did the same and joined Sarah. But not only did she go against slavery, she also became a speaker for women on women's rights. She incorporated her anti-slavery and women's rights movements together. The women traveled, giving inspirational speeches on slaveholding and women's rights, and they became more well-known. They spent 6 months in New England, giving 80 speeches in 77 communities at audiences of 40,000. They began only giving speeches to women, persuading them to free their slaves and pay for labor, but later on started calling out to men as well. They were also the first pair of women to address a member of Congress on these matters, as well as boycotted any goods produced with slavery. Her most successful form of protest was a book she wrote in 1836 named Epistle to the Clergy of the Southern States. Through the book, she challenged Southern clergymen's support for slavery and her opinion of being against it.
Abolitionists never sought place or power. All they asked was freedom. All they wanted was that the white man should take his foot off the Negro's neck.
Slavery has and always will produce insurrections wherever it exists, because it is a violation of the natural order of things.
Ruchira Gupta created an Emmy Award-winning documentary, Selling of Innocence, on prostitution between India and Nepal, and works with many organizations protesting against modern-day slavery and for women's rights. Alike to Sarah Grimke, with her visual presentations and women's rights activism. Susan B. Anthony had a similar upbringing to Sarah Grimke. She grew up in a large family and was a Quaker, but she also became involved in women's rights after being denied a proper education, almost exactly like Sarah Grimke too.
After a long and fulfilling life, Sarah at age 83 passed away December 23, 1873, but left a huge impact on history as an advocate for rights for slaves and women.